So I think this week's episode of AEW started with the BCC telling Wheeler Yuta that he is not a zoo animal. I don't know what to do with that information. The point is, they know he's a warrior and they want him to come back to the fold. When Marina Shafir spoke some Russian, as John Moxley was all like, Bryan Danielson, I'm going to murder you. Not gonna lie, this was a lot to take on in your brain. Also, hello my friends, and welcome to Ups and Downs, and yes, we shall talk about the thing that everyone is talking about. All Elite Wrestling did sign their brand new television day yesterday, and unless you are an absolutely crazy person, this is the best thing for the wrestling business. It's good for the wrestlers, it's good for the fans, and it's good for the industry overall. I just said that twice, but it just is. Look how good wrestling has been for the last 5 years. I love AEW, and I love WWE, and I love all of this craziness, and I want to keep pumping it into my veins. And that sounds somewhat sexual, but it also means we now take the finger of power, and we go through the 5th anniversary episode of AEW, give the good bits an up, we get the bad bits are down. I also need to point out that in the opening video, Moxley also said that it's time to send Daddy home, meaning, I guess, that he is Bryan Danielson's dad. So now we've gone full Star Wars. Also add a 1 to the crime counter as well, because if you did show this video to anyone in a police station, the cops would be like, well, at the very least, we need to go have a chat with someone. So yeah, it's most definitely a crime. Before that, though, Ricochet's music hits. You're gonna have to forgive me because I need to go on a rant. The usual folk online were all like, Will Ospreay versus Ricochet wasn't as good as I was expecting, and you know what? I've seen better. Now listen, you're perfectly allowed that opinion, and if you did watch it and you still came to the conclusion, you know what, this start isn't for me, that's totally cool. But to those acting like this was just a run-of-the-mill match and anybody can do it, you are totally cooked and you are totally off the deep end and you don't know how spoiled you are and you do not know how good you've got it. That is the only way I can fathom that somebody could come to that conclusion. Now, Ospreay was also talking to Don Callis before this as he flubbed off with the family, which turned out it was going to be a trick. And then, yes, William and Ricky basically did a big callback to all their other matches. And I tell you, it made me feel warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, because sometimes you only need to do the easy stuff. And then also, they did the hardest stuff I've ever seen in my life. Like they were transitioning and they were reversing, and they were just wiggling, and they were just flipping. To be honest with you, it was absolutely redonkulous. We also got to confirm too that Taz had been attacked in the parking lot earlier in the day, which is why Nigel McGuinness was filling in for him. It turns out this is going to be a little bit of a story. So what the hell is going on? We were then doing Hurricane Runs on Barry Barricade and just doing Spanish flies as if it was the easiest thing in the world. And all you really need to do is go and listen to the fans. They were losing their minds. They were chanting for one guy, then they were chanting for the other guy, and they were chanting fight forever. And as always, make sure that nobody fights forever and instead just fight for the allocated time that you got from the back. I also think they're actually keeping some stuff in the tank because clearly this is not going to be a one and done. And at one point, Ospreay went for the hidden blade and Ricochet turned it into what I can only describe as like a backslide bomb. Sounds a bit kinky. I don't think I've ever seen that before. We were then getting rolled through Stars clashes and Oz cutters for 1-2-oohs, and then we got another Oz cutter on the ring apron. And Ricochet looks so damn good here, as did Will Ospreay. And honestly, I genuinely could watch them fight every single day because they're like wrestling aliens, and I bet they could always come up with something new. Ricochet then got a shooting star press for his own 1-2-ooh as they traded poison rounders, because why wouldn't you do that? When Ospreay landed on his feet, and he kind of smashed Ricky with the hidden blade when they fell in a very awkward position, and Will was kind of pinning Rick, and Rick was kind of pinning Will. It makes no sense. There would be no rule that suggested this. The referee was like, well, I can see all the shoulders on the match, so I must count to the 1, 2, 3. I was like, bro, just don't count to the 1, 2, 3. Wait until they stand up, then they can continue to go. It also did mean that we got a draw. The fans absolutely booed this, which made me laugh, when we basically tricked the audience, because we then got told these guys are going to go at it again. They started trading even more moves, when Takeshita, he hadn't left the building at all, and he wiped both of these dudes out. So the match was stopped again. He also raised the international title over his head, which means at Wrestle Dream, we are going to do this three-way as confirmed by Tony Khan. So TK has just gone totally Reddit and you never go totally Reddit. You do have to love it though, and while you do need to be careful when going absolutely crazy with these cards, which we'll talk about later, this was just such a good match. And who doesn't want to see Takeshita versus Ospreay versus Ricochet, especially in a promotion like AEW? I mean, this is essentially their calling card. So it was absolutely fantastic, and if you do watch it and you like this kind of thing, you will just be filled with glee. So I am going to give it a massive up, though I do have to be that guy, a bit scared about this. It's also going to get it down, because I don't think we should have done that first draw double pin thingamajig. I mean, it's just not what anybody wanted to see, and if Takeshita was going to get involved, well, just let him break up the match to begin with, and then all the heat would have been on his shoulders. Whereas, for about 30 seconds, the poor referee, well, he got it right in the neck. You know what? That's nerd stuff. Who cares? This rules. Renee Paquette was then with Mercedes Moné and Camille. Mercedes was all like, oh man, let's celebrate AEW's anniversary with this wonderful clip package. And of course, it was just clips of Mercedes Moné. The most interesting part is that MVP walked in here and he gave Mercedes his business card. Now, if we are going to reform the Hurt business in some form or fashion, I think having Mercedes Moné and Camille in there could be really, really good. I shall cross my arms and wait and see. I don't write the shows. Maybe he just wanted to give her a call about insurance. Renee also tried to talk to the Guns, but they got totally wiped out by Hangman Adam Page. Of course, that was going to tie into our next match. Before all of that, though, it was TV time with the Learning Tree. I'm not even sure if this is meant to be a talk show anymore, but whatever you want to call it, I am kind of done with them in wrestling. Just go out there and have a chat. Now, Big Bill started and said it's all about the journey, and over the last 1,825 days, we've all learned from Chris Jericho. At first, I was like, no way has the Learning Tree almost been going 2,000 days. And I even went and did the maths. And I realized that Billy Boy was talking about AEW, and I also realized that I'm an absolute idiot. Jericho then came out and talked about the brand new television deal, which had made a lot of experts look like morons. Listen, he is totally correct. There's a lot of people with egg on their face today, and I don't want anybody to talk about this on Dynamite. Don't bring all that tribalism into the mix. Sometimes I just want wrestling on my wrestling show. Once again, I will double down though and say it is absolutely brilliant, especially because we may even be getting a brand new show on Fox. That's a different video from a different day. When Chris Jericho was like, let's also face it, AEW wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. As Brian Keith was like, listen everybody, we all need to thank Christopher Jericho. Jericho was also super duper happy that he had beaten Mark Briscoe up on Collision. And hey, given that he is the Ring of Honor World Champion, he challenged Marky Mark to put that title on the line at the next pay-per-view known as Wrestle Dream. Of course, it meant as per Wrestling Rule 14.8, Mark Briscoe was just behind the curtain, and as soon as he heard his name, he came marching to the ring. And he definitely wasn't doing this. He would never be cheered again. Now, he had his conglomerates with him too, although he wanted to talk mano a mano, so Jericho sent his trees away, and we did get a singular conversation. Now, Mark wasn't annoyed what had happened over the weekend because Papa Briscoe had always told him not to make excuses, and even though Big Bill had got involved by using a table, it was a tornado tag, so essentially there were no rules, so Chrissy Boy just did what he had to do. There's also the fact that he would love to be able to put a win over Chris Jericho onto his belt, and given that the word of the day was consequential, he is consequentially going to take Jericho's head and smash it into a wall. I was like, I tell you, Mark Briscoe, I am basically in love with you. Now, Jericho decided he was going to absolutely set the internet on fire because he turned to Mark and said, hey, you can't beat me. Maybe your brother could, because we all know he was the better of the two. Now, as I've always said when it comes to these things, as long as the Briscoe family was perfectly fine with this, that's their decision. But maybe I was just one of those moods. Because my tootsie toes are a bit like, you know what, I don't think I need this right now. Now the good part is that Briscoe responded by punching Chris Jericho right in the face, and that's what you would do when he accepted the challenge and said, at Wrestle Dream, I'm gonna whip your ass. Now I actually think this match is gonna be really good because we can come at it from two completely different perspectives, but I do have a couple of issues that kind of make me go, not sure if it's the best idea, because one, I don't think we should be putting the Ring of Honor World Championship onto AEW TV. We've talked about this before. It just muddies the waters a little bit, and it also is the law of diminishing returns. When you have all of these titles, and now we've kind of got another one, well, it makes the other titles feel less important because everybody comes out wearing a title. You also have the fact that Orange Cassidy just beat Chris Jericho recently, So why isn't he hanging out playing Nintendo going, excuse me, where's my championship shot? I beat this guy. So yes, I do think these two have great chemistry and I'm all down for them having a scrap. But in terms of this segment, well, for my own personal taste, it does get it down. But if you enjoyed it, remember, more power to you. It's just the way. Darby Allin was then cutting a promo and he wasn't happy as he told us a story from when he was a kid because people were laughing at him and then they wanted to stab him with a knife. So that escalated from nowhere. Now he said these potential stabbers actually reminded him of Jon Moxley. So that's quite the threat. But the point is he has nothing less to lose. So when it comes to Wrestle Dream, which is coming from his hometown, he is doing an open challenge. Who the flub could that be? Now you would have to imagine that Bobby Lashley is in for a shout here for reasons we shall get into later. But if that is the case, what the flub do you do? Because Bob would have to kill him. When it comes to Darby as of late, well, a lot of people have actually tried to kill him. Still, if AEW does get this right, it could be totally huge when we moved into Hangman Adam Page versus Juice Robinson, and this was an absolute delight. Now, Page doesn't wait around anymore because he is crazy, so he attacked Juice instantly, which actually turned out to be a terrible plan because these two fought everywhere. And at one point, they were using beer and they were using popcorn, and Juice looked like he was having the time of his life. It also meant when they eventually got back in the ring, the bell went ding, ding, ding. I think a few fans thought there'd been a DQ or something when they were like, they hadn't even kicked off the thing because they were too busy brawling. We then got reminded that Taz is in bad shape, so again, that is going to be a big story. When Robinson punched the Cowboy in the face while going, "Way, it's AEW's 5th birthday." The man is very good at maximizing his minutes. Page was then able to create some space, but he still got spine busted into the ring apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, when people were assaulting Barry Barricade again. How many times do I have to talk about this? Why is nobody trying to protect Baz? And then also hit the fall-away slam into Tina the Turnbuckle, so all our wrestling friends were getting it. When we had the reversals and the transitions, once again, you could just do a little round of applause because they're both very good at the wrestling. Page also realized he needed some separation, so he basically used the referee against his will, which is when he was able to kick Juice Robinson right in the testicles as Juice was going, "Oh, I'm in a lot of pain." He got hit with the buckshot lariat. 1, 2, 3. Now we usually go to the crime counter because Hangman Adam Page actually did a crime for the second time in a few days because he tried to quite literally hang Juice Robinson after this. There's no two ways about it. That is actually attempted murder. 1. It turned out we were just setting up a big anniversary surprise because just as he was going to finish the job, Jay White's music played and Switchblade did return to AEW. He went right after the Cowboy. He also made sure to smash Hangman through a table that had been placed there very conveniently earlier. And it kind of feels to me like Jay White is going to be a mega over babyface. And that excites me. And also, if he's working with Page, he's at the tippity top of the card. And that's where he should be. Juice was also really good here too. So all of this felt like a very well done angle. I enjoyed it a lot. And I'm giving it an up. Renee was then going to try and talk to Jack Perry when Shibata walked in with his phone and used that voice to challenge him to a TNT title match. It's a very specific situation. Now Jackie pretended that he didn't actually care about this when of course he jumped Shibata and beat him up. So I suppose we are going to do that at the pay-per-view. I mean, maybe a little bit more story would be nice, but I'm sure it will be okay. I mean, the only benefit of doing that is then maybe you could actually believe that Shibata is going to win here, and I don't feel that way. When we cut to Bryan Danielson, he basically went, "Hey, Jon Moxley, go flub yourself." Now I do get that because he did try to kill you and Bryan made it very clear. This is bigger than those two, this is bigger than the World Championship, and it's all about AEW because we have revolutionized the industry and now you're trying to break it down. It's one of the reasons he did challenge Okada from nowhere, and we will talk about that later because we are trying to keep the spirit alive. I think the main point of this was to make it very clear that when Danielson does drop this world title, he will be giving up his full-time career. I mean, really, he clearly wants to go out with a bang here, and he's so dialed in, he did hit fast forward on this Okada match. Like I say, we'll get to it in a bit. First, though, because we were in Pittsburgh, it was time for the return of Britt Baker. As she was taking on Serena Deeb, and again, after all it, Britt had just fallen off the face of the planet, and I still don't understand why. Now, I do think we have to remember she came back from a pretty devastating medical issue, but even then, you don't want to reintroduce someone and then have them fall into the abyss. So that is going to get it down. Otherwise, though, this is exactly what Baker did need because, again, let's forget, this is only like her 4th match and she did return, and they just had a good old-fashioned wrestling match. And at one point, they were even doing wrist locks. Mariah May was also watching on too, as Excalibur told us, oh hi, Mina Shirakawa actually teamed with Toni Storm in Japan, so that's all gonna tie in. As Serena Deeb applied the Boston Crab. Oh, that's weird. She's from Virginia. Baker then got the net breaker, so Serena came back with the lariat when she got sling-bladed, fisherman suplexed, as Baker put the glove on. I was like, I remember that combo. I do believe it was made popular by Stan Hansen. Of course, this was Baker going for the lockjaw, but she took too long, so Serena went back after her now bad leg, when she also hit her with a bomb of power. 1-2-0. Serena then missed the Deeb tox, which led us to 2 air raid crashes, the second which was an avalanche version. And even though Serena was able to go for the most devastating move, in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, Baker essentially went, ha no, and she got the lockjaw, tap out win. Now, Deeb was so mad about this, she instantly went back to the half crab, which is when of all the people, Queen Aminata made the save, and even Baker was looking at her like, why have you done this? She was genuinely concerned. So we shall tie into something, but ultimately I thought this was very smart, because Britt Baker needed a big old performance, and we did it in her hometown, and now we can just get back to the week-to-week giving it up. Renee was then in the back with Hook. Understandably, he was really pissed off. Now, he was ready to kill some people because, of course, they did take out his daddy and he's going to flub some Shiv up. At first, I was like, well, maybe it was the Undisputed Kingdom under instruction of Adam Cole, because apparently Adam is going to be back to the fold soon, so why not do this? And it would tie in with everything when it comes to Roderick Strong. And I was like, you are never going to be able to make me boo Adam Cole again. That guy's been through too much. We ain't got a much bigger tease for all of this, because right after this we cut to Christian Cage. We know all about this guy. He hates dads. He also continued to tell us that he is a future world champion, so we're not moving away from that narrative, as he reminded us that he is the father of AEW. I was like, yeah, he definitely did this to Taz. I'm gonna take the evidence to the police. When things just made no sense. Because Renee Paquette was indeed talking to Mariah May, when Mariah was like, oh man, let's discuss Willow Nightingale, who right now is failing upwards. What? And that's because she is getting a title shot, and even May here went through all the matches she did lose. So 1, how did we come to this conclusion? And 2, at All Out, Chris Statlander beat Willow Nightingale, so why is she not getting a title shot? And also the bigger question, where the flub has Chris Statlander gone? So it really is 2 + 2 = potato, because sometimes wins and losses do have to matter. I don't make the rules. So that's a down. Now, Willow did walk in and she got right in Mariah's face here and called her a bitch. That's one of the bitch counter. As these two did get into it, when Christopher Daniels ran in to calm things down, that's not what we do here. Even though that's exactly what we do every single week. So this is another match that I am excited about, but I think my big issue with it was I would rather we went all in with this when it came to Willow Nightingale, to the point when eventually she did fight the World Championship. We actually believe that she's going to win. Now listen, I still shall let it play out because I think it could be quite good, but yeah, I would have added some fire under the flames. Or something like that. When we got Private Party versus the Iron Savages with Jack Jameson, I just enjoyed this, because I enjoy all of these guys. The whole point, though, is just to heat up Private Party, though, because in about 2 seconds, they hit the gin and juice, and they got the 1, 2, 3. And yes, they didn't hit the move exactly how they would have wanted to, but they're human beings, and also in storyline, Isaiah Cassidy has a broken hand. What do you want from him? They also cut a promo afterwards when Isaiah talked about this. He was like, man, me and Mark Quinn don't even care that my digits are broken. I was like, well, you should care, dude. And of course, Mark doesn't. It's not his hand. They do want to become the AEW World Tag Team Champions, though, so that came out of nowhere. When they called out the Young Bucks, who were here, they were sat on a stair, and they were like, oh, man, maybe we shall defend our championship right now, because let's face it, we're the whole reason AEW is successful, where they were like, actually, no, we have limited dates, and we ain't doing this in Pittsburgh. Made me laugh. Jack Perry then teleported in from nowhere, so the beatdown was on when, of course, Shibata made the save. When Christopher Daniels walked out and said, well, this is great. We can now do a 6-man tag on Rampage. So that's what we're going to do. So it is a little weird that Private Party have been moved into his position so fast, because they have been mugged off the last few weeks. But listen, I would much rather people like this did get pushed, and we try to turn them into something again, because they have kind of been marginalized, well, for the last year or so. So I'm never going to get mad about that. And let's hope we continue to put the pieces together and giving it up. When we just got the best debut. Now, fair play to MVP, who basically did the same thing last week, but here, Renee Paquette was talking to Umvup when Prince Nana walked in and was like, I didn't appreciate what you did the other day. Don't forget I used to be a wrestler, and I will beat you up. Now, MVP wasn't bothered by this, because that sounds like an issue for the complaints department, and do you know who heads it up? This guy, when the camera panned across. And who was stood there? It was none other than Shelton Benjamin. And man, the pop he got, this ruled. I just love what we're doing here though, because these aren't the usual surprise debuts. There's no music coming out and someone walks down the ring. Shelton Benjamin and MVP are just turning up in random situations, and it's all the better for it because it feels fresh. Like bread. Sheldon then sipped Nana's coffee as these two walked off, as the Prince basically had a meltdown, and you just know that Bobby Lashley is going to be here soon too. So honestly, a massive round of applause for these guys. They're just wanting to do things a little bit differently. It actually makes them feel like bigger stars, which makes no sense. I am giving it an up. I am excited for this. When we did get our crazy main event, let's talk about it. Because yes, from nowhere, or at least on social media, we got told the main event for our 5th anniversary Dynamite show is gonna be title versus title, Okada versus Bryan Danielson. Damn. Whereas Okada is the Continental Champion, it meant that his belt was only gonna be up for grabs for the first 20 minutes, because every single Continental title match has a 20-minute time limit. My brain. Now look, this is nothing new and it has been done before, and in fact it's quite old school. Sometimes I think we can talk honestly about this. It doesn't mean it's a good idea. The fact it all just came out of nowhere too, I just thought this was a little bit too much. Because again, it's Okada versus Bryan Danielson. It still counts as a dream match. So I'm giving it a down. I mean, ultimately, if you are going to have a bazooka, you need to load it correctly, whatever that means. But once again, this is the geek stuff. Listen to what I just told you. Bryan Danielson versus Okada for free on TV. If you're one of these people that are like, oh man, this should have been on a pay-per-view, I've told you, I will give you my bank details and you can send the cash to me, then everybody wins. They are just some of the best wrestlers of all time though, and we did the big stare down, then we had the big stalemate, because you are as good as me, but I am as good as you. The whole time, the fans were doing the dance of joy, and again, that's the whole point. Okada is just the absolute best too, because he was basically moving in slow motion here, because as the commentators told us, he is trying to outlive the 20-minute time limit, and then he knows his belt is safe. They also smacked each other in the face when Okada leveled Bryan Danielson with a DDT, when once again, we were just using Barry Barricade, because Okada took Bryan's face and went whack, 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 so Bryan took Okada's face and went whack, 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 and they kept on fighting. The whole time I was just worried about Barry, and he's had a tough day. The yes kicks then came as we started to get into our 1-2-oohs as Okada hit his picture-perfect drop kick, when he hit the big elbow from the top rope as well, and Bryan Danielson sold his arm, which was another callback, because the last time it happened, yep, he broke a bone. Okada then missed the Rainmaker and fell right into the label lock. He was about to tap until he realized, wait a minute, we're at the 19-minute mark. So he got out of his hold, he took the big knee, but he rolled out of the ring, which took him past 20 minutes. He was like, ha ha, I did it, the belt is mine. Now he must have known this too, because he grabbed Bryan and tombstoned him on the outside into all of this wreckage. Let's not forget, Bryan Danielson has told us he needs neck surgery, so this dude is unhinged. Danielson then must have realized, man, my medical bills are gonna be even more expensive, so he stomped Okada's head in when he went for the knee, but Okada reversed it into the Rainmaker. I mean, you really could watch them all day. They then both hit big knees for near falls as Danielson went submission crazy, when out came Pac and Claudio Castagnoli. I mean, they were in the front row, so they must have bought a ticket. Now, it was sort of weird because Okada turned into the wrestler. It's like, oh no, I can't concentrate anymore because there are people on the outside. When Bryan snuck in and he hit the most devastating move in all of sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up, or the backslide in this case, and yeah, he got the 1-2-3. Now that did come after Okada had tried to hit the Rainmaker, and Claudio was smirking about all of this, and I suppose this was their intent, because they don't want Okada to take the world title from Bryan Danielson, they want that to be Jon Moxley. Now Okada did look at them, and he had an absolute meltdown, and he took out Bryan with the Rainmaker, and he stormed off. So I need to see what's going to happen here. Serena, Shafir and Moxley then joined their friends, as Jonathan said something along the lines of, you need to get this through your blueberry brain, which is quite the line. This is bigger than you, this is bigger than me, and something else is at play here. And also, you're lucky it is you, otherwise I would have killed you long ago. Crime counter. Wheeler Yuta then ran out with a hammer, so crime counter, so obviously. But Jon Moxley just stood there daring him to use it. Well, no, not daring him to use it. That would have mean Wheeler would have built a shelf. But he was happy to be hit with a hammer. Someone needs to talk to that guy. Now it worked because whatever Yuta's plans was, he changed his mind and instead he got a microphone and he was like, listen, you buffoons, I am so sick and tired of you treating me like a child. Let's be honest, that's what a child would say. This all came after a mini scuffle between everybody as well, so they are at odds with each other, when Wheeler made it very clear he is happy to protect Bryan Danielson to next week on Dynamite. He wants a tag team match. Him and Bryan versus Claudio and Pac. And yeah, before we did go off air, this got green-lit. Something is coming. That is doubly true because the whole time the commentators were like, who's behind Jon Moxley? Who's behind Jon Moxley? Who's pulling the strings? So you have to figure it's Shane McMahon. Because the payoff to this needs to be something seismic, and the McMahon in AEW is massive no matter how you feel about it. So I actually think we are heading in that direction. And that is going to be totally woefully surreal. I mean, why else would Jon Moxley be talking in riddles? This is going to be like cats marrying dogs. But this storyline has me totally hooked, and I do want to see where it's going to go. And also, it all came after Bryan Danielson versus Okada, who I'm pretty convinced are incapable of having a bad match. Dynamite also went off air after 2 hours and 30 minutes. This was a massive overrun, and the last thing I think we need is longer shows. But I just thought it was a great ending to Dynamite as they do try to move on to pastors new. If we do have 25 minutes to do whatever it was, I would go and watch this match. I am most definitely giving it an up. Next week or at the pay-per-view, we may see Shane McMahon. What a crazy, wazy world. I also now totally believe that Jon Moxley is going to be the guy to send Bryan Danielson into semi-retirement, and I am not ready for that. And overall, when it comes to the 5th anniversary of Dynamite, I am going to give it an up. I mean, in many ways, it was absolutely insane. But I do think I like the insanity. Now, of course, please do leave me a comment below and let me know what you thought about last night's episode of Dynamite. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen for my ups and downs for Monday Night Raw as we celebrate all professional wrestling. And again, congratulations to AEW. The ride continues, as does ups and downs. And I will see you next week.